My name is Tim Martin. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Carolina Cloud Exchange, Inc., 33, based in Huntersville, North Carolina. The reason for our company's existence is we aim to help companies reduce their waste in their high-performance computing spend. As a result, our mission is very clear. We seek to be the leader in bare metal cost optimization for bare metal cloud. You might be wondering, what in the world is bare metal cloud? Well, when you strip away all the software and virtualization services, the underlying server infrastructure is what we call bare metal. Now, some of you might be familiar with the public cloud, services like AWS and Microsoft Azure. Well, the big difference is, on Amazon or in the public cloud, you're sharing resources amongst a variety of different enterprises and users. With bare metal, the resources are dedicated entirely to you as the user. Now, what we're seeing is an evolution in the computing space. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, all of these types of applications are forming the next generation of where data centers are headed. And these are insanely intense on resources. And as a result of that, these applications prefer to run on bare metal. The reason is simple: better performance. In fact, bare metal provides a better output in terms of performance, upwards of 10 to 30%. Think about it in terms of R&D, a company like Bristol Myers Squibb or Pfizer, where you're investing in cancer research. You're talking about faster time to compute and a greater overall return on investment. So how does CCE fit into this equation? Well, in the public cloud, cost optimization is a well-practiced, it's a well-established practice. In bare metal cloud, there's virtually no market for it. Introducing Inframeter, our patent-pending cost optimization tool that gauges host-level usage metrics of the underlying server infrastructure. Think of it like an electricity meter for measuring computer processing power. Here's how we arrived. We were early to recognize that the GPU was extremely critical to the powering of high-performance computing applications such as AI and machine learning. And on top of that, there was no reliable unit of measure in the marketplace. Second, we realized how critical our invention were to being able to capitalize on the bare metal marketplace. For instance, app containers and on-demand bare metal cloud were things that were driving this evolution of computing. Inframeter provides companies the first time ever the ability to cost compare and discover prices on an apples-to-apples basis. Inframeter also provides companies the ability to right-size their server purchasing in the cloud. Inframeter also helps C-suite executives reduce their overall operating efficiency and increase their return on investment. It's also extremely secure. In fact, our software gets deployed behind a company's firewall and creates no additional vulnerabilities. It can also be supported on any type of computing environment. So we think we have a significant edge compared to our competition. In fact, the only existing unit of measure that we're aware of has zero support for the GPU. And all other companies that cater towards cost optimization have no presence in the bare metal cloud environment. Here's why we think we're ready for launching Inframeter. One, our product is ready. We've been developing over the last couple of years, and we're ready for commercialization. Two, we have patents pending, and we feel like our intellectual property is locked down. And three, we've built an extremely viable pipeline that allows us to begin generating revenue early next year. On top of that, the greater ecosystem is now producing software automation and the ability for workloads to be extremely portable, which we think helps the adoption of our product into the future. Our business model is simple. First element, we plan to monetize our business intelligence through cost optimization. As our product evolves and our platform evolves, we then began to anticipate generating commissions through brokerage fees as well as transaction fees on our marketplace. Here's our strategy. Phase one, cost optimization. As our platform gets into the hands of customers, it becomes a natural evolution for companies to begin to buy and sell their excess HPC or high performance computing capacity, in which we anticipate launching a marketplace. You can think of it very much like an Uber or Airbnb or Hotwire for companies buying and selling their excess high-performance computing capacity. Here's our team. We're ready. I have 8 years experience in the cloud computing marketplace. Our chairman, Bob Lerner, has been an experienced investor in the startup space. He's personally invested. And Myron Stewart, our CTO, has over 15 years of experience in the DevOps space and an expert in GPUs. So here's why we're here today. We're exiting stealth mode. We're actively raising $500,000. We've already got checks in the doors, and we've got a number of other commitments already on board, and we're looking to raise money through a convertible note. And our vision from 5 years from now, we anticipate being the leader in bare metal cost optimization. We anticipate operating an exchange that will have companies buying and selling their excess HPC capacity, and we anticipate our intellectual property being worth a significant amount of money. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tim. So I understand the problem and the solution. You spent a good amount of time talking about those, and I think getting to that explanation faster, simplifying it, will help you to have more time to talk about some things that that you didn't get to. The total addressable market, what traction, what customers specifically are you going after? You named at the beginning, generally, here's some industries that you look at, but what specific customers are you going after? Does your team have any way to get to those customers better than another? And the problem and the solution, I understand it. I don't know that every investor will understand it. There are a lot of buzzwords that you have throughout this, and you're really smart. You know your industry really, really well. Not everybody does. So, if you can simplify some of that, and one way I think you could do that is by giving a specific type of customer and explaining specifically what is their problem, how could you solve their problem, and then that just that specifically, then the rest of us are going to understand, okay, I get it. All those terms that you're talking about, I get that. So I'll stop there.
Oh, thanks. Yep, I agree. Those are, I think, exactly the right comments. That this is a difficult thing for a lot of people to understand.
That's why we took 5 slides to kind of...
Yeah, I mean, an example, I think you hit it exactly. Like, listen, you could take my business. I'm in Azure, and I'm in Heroku, and I'm in AWS, and so, here's Steve's company, and he spends, $2 million in, private cloud services annually, and we went in, and here's what we saved him, and here's how we did it. Like, that would be really clear. And then I would like to see that tied to monetization. Your monetization slide was unclear to me. I don't really know what the business model is. Am I subscribing to software? Am I, and I would just point out that there used to be, and maybe I think we're re-entering this space in 3 places. I think about it with regard to subscription software, data center, and potentially a couple other places. But there used to be really successful business models. Those of y'all who are as old as I am remember people used to come and say, hey, I'll reduce your telco bill by 10% and I'll take 5, right? And they were insanely successful before telco got so commoditized. I'm interested in the monetization and the business model here. I think you have a way potentially to go to market that's unconventional, but that's super lucrative because people are spending tons of money. I mean, we're a tiny company. We spend a couple $1 million a year in these places. If you can save me $300,000, I'll give you $100 all day long. So I would like to know more as an investor about that, just so it's clear to me what the market is, to your point.
Certainly.
Last point I would say, just from a pure pitch standpoint, is if you're going to ask for any money at all, you got to tell me what the use of proceeds are. You're going to do what with the $500,000? You have more product development to do. You do sales and marketing, and in particular, I would wonder $500,000 against something like this, where you have behemoths in the space and lots of money going in. Is it enough? What are you going to do with it? And if you have to educate a market, generally that's very expensive about a new tech or a new solution, especially something at a patented level. So I would just wonder about the dollar raise. You may have money from your investor that he can come alongside, but it's just a small number given the fact that you got to break a market. So that's all. I'd like to see use of proceeds.
Certainly. So to answer your first question in terms of monetization, right? So very familiar with the telecom space, seen that evolve over the last 10, 15 years, whatever it's been, right? There are a lot of those telecom, call it profit recovery or cost recovery businesses, are now entering the cloud business. And so we're actively communicating with them, and the way we intend to go to market from just a scale perspective is to provide our software in a white label to all these
I
companies.
gotcha. Okay.
And then as they save their company's money, essentially they're going to pay us a subscription for kind of using the software, and then
You're
we'll
going to monetize the
and then we'll
SaaS
take a
number,
piece of
they're
the
gonna-
action
okay, yeah.
down the road as they save
It's
their
a
company's
good play.
money.
I mean, I do like that. I think it's got,
And
it's
we just
very
can't,
easy enterprise.
you know, for us, we can't go hire 15, 20 sales guys to implement that model directly ourselves. So that's
Yeah.
how we're looking at that.
So that's what you meant by the broker side of the business.
Correct.
Going to business.
Correct.
3D.
Yeah, our whole ambition, right, is the business kind of has two angles to it. One is, you know, the software professional services angle, which we don't want to be in professional services.
Yeah.
So ultimately, we look to license the technology downstream to business partners, ultimately driving them to our platform. And that's where we see an opportunity to then create the underlying marketplace where you've got this business intelligence installed, companies analyzing their costs on our platform to then introduce the ability for companies to sell their services through our platform, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that does.
And then as far as the raise is concerned, yeah, it's I mean, I'd love to ask for more money. We're treating it as basically a bridge to call it a Series A,
Yeah.
where we can kind of cross a couple of those, or check a couple of those boxes off in terms of, you know, revenue generation. We've got a couple patents pending, which look pretty good so far, where we think we can, you know, not be overly dilutive at this point and execute for the next 6 or 12 months, which gets us in a better position to
Yeah, that's fair.
take on a larger round and
That's
bring in
fair.
more resources.
Okay, cool.
Tim, can you talk a little bit more about your team too? When you're going into these companies, you're obviously going to need to prove to them that you are the guys, it looked like just guys, to do
Right now,
this.
yeah.
Yes, so, you know, to prove to them, you say it's very secure, you say you figured out, you know, this interesting way to measure and optimize. Well, how do we know if I'm Steve's company and I say, yeah, I want to take it, you know, test this out. I want to give you access to all of our infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Well, so we've already performed a pilot. So we've got, you know, white papers, case studies to support, you know, the cost savings angle and some of the benefits of deploying our software. Security is a big, you know, kind of red herring question of sorts, right? So we take that very seriously, which is, you know, a result of talking to enterprises and basically taking our prototype, which was managed in our cloud, to now it drops and runs behind a company's firewall. We don't require any sort of root access to the server or anything like that. So literally, we're not creating any additional vulnerabilities for an enterprise in terms of installing our software, which, you know, we were very sensitive for the concerns of the chief security officer in regards to, you know, how we implemented our technology.
Great, thank you. That was pretty much. I think still a little bit more if you can, you know, when you're doing your pitch, go a little bit more into your specific backgrounds that we know that all of this that you just said, you can actually execute on.
Certainly, yeah. Yeah, if we had 7 minutes, I probably would have had a little bit more time.
Absolutely.
You know, our biggest challenge of our business, right, is especially talking to a room like this. You know, I've got a broad brush I've got to paint, and so I think generally most people understand AWS. You know, it's been out in the market, but trying to create the differentiation and the understanding in 90 seconds in regards to the benefits of bare metal, you know, unfortunately eats up some of that time that could be better spent explaining our team and things of that nature.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I would stay, and I think that's important. Execution's everything. I mean, I would almost say too, I haven't believed, and this isn't as a knock against you guys, I haven't believed anybody who's told me they have IP in like 20 years, because like everybody's got IP. I don't even know what that means anymore, because nothing's defensible. It's so difficult. I believe, based on your background and your experience, that you guys are bright enough, you have an idea. Execution. Tell me that you're going to get it done, and make me believe you're going to get it done. I'm going to inherently just accept that you've got something interesting, you know what I mean? So the IP part to me is like, it's just so hard to convey, to your point, the technical merits of the approach you guys have taken. I think it's very much about execution. I agree.
Okay.
Do you have any questions from the audience?
It kind of made it seem like AWS and Azure are your competitors. Does that mean you guys have your own servers?
No. So no to both those questions. So when we're looking at the market for high performance computing, 90+% of those applications actually still run on-prem in the company's data center, right? And the reality of it is companies that have tried to run, call it HPC in the cloud, on AWS, on Azure, the performance is degraded, And so these companies can't figure out why it costs so much to run out there. So as a result, companies that rely heavily on HPC are still managing their own data centers. So we look at that as kind of like our low-hanging fruit. CFOs, generally speaking, want to be in the cloud because they love this OpEx type of approach where they pay on a monthly basis. However, when they go out to AWS Azure, it's just costing them way too much money. So I can see how it's perceived that they're our competition, but really what we're trying to do is differentiate the type of business applications. Some apps are always going to be better fit to run on AWS. The reality is most companies treat AWS as like one size fits all. And they're running all their apps out there, and their HPC stuff really has no business being out there because of a return on investment.
Can I just say that I think he brings up a wonderful question as an outside person, as an investor, and you see 3 folks in, outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, and you think they're going to go compete with those guys. Tell me right up front that you're not, because
Right.
as an investor, I'm scared to death that I'm putting money into a business where you're going up against those guys. So that's a great question, I think, and I think that would be an important part of the pitch, is a very clear and concise differentiation there of how you're actually, the proliferation of those guys is going to make you money rather than compete with you, because the difficulty there is what's causing people to move back into private clouds. It's difficult and it's expensive, so that I think it's a benefit. I would get that out front for sure.
Right, and that goes back to that, giving a specific example where you can say, okay,
Yeah.
these are companies that are not designed to go onto Azure and AWS. They're going to always keep this on premise.
Yeah, it's good. Good question.